From BBC Learning English, this is Learning English from the News, our podcast about the news headlines.
In this programme, suspect charged with attempted assassination of President Donald Trump.
Hello, I'm Becca.
And I'm Pippa.
In this programme, we look at one big news story and the vocabulary in the headlines that will help you understand it.
You can find all the vocabulary and headlines from this episode, as well as a worksheet on our website, bbclearningenglish.com.
So, let's hear more about this story.
On Saturday night, Cole Thomas Allen was arrested for attempting to shoot US President Donald Trump during the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He's now been charged with attempted assassination.
Allen was carrying 2 guns and 3 knives, prosecutors say.
During Saturday night's incident, Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, cabinet members and other White House officials were rushed from the Washington Hilton Hotel ballroom after gunfire was heard.
Let's have our first headline.
This is from BBC News. Performer describes locking eyes with Trump as they ducked for cover during shooting.
That headline again from BBC News. Performer describes locking eyes with Trump as they ducked for cover during shooting.
This headline is based on a performer's account of the night. Oz Perlman told the BBC that he was talking to Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, and White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt when the attack happened.
Yes, he says that they were face to face looking at each other. And the language we're going to focus on can describe just that. The headline mentions that the performer locked eyes with Trump. What can you tell us about this expression, Pippa?
Well, when you literally lock something, you make it so that it cannot be opened or moved. And that meaning is useful when we think about the phrase locking eyes with someone.
Yes, locking eyes is a metaphorical phrase and it means that 2 people look into each other's eyes at the same time for a period of time.
So, as the performer described, he and Trump were face to face looking at each other. They locked eyes.
We often use lock eyes in dramatic situations, like the one in this story, but you might also hear it in more positive situations, such as in romantic contexts. For example, as soon as they locked eyes, they knew they were in love.
We can also use the phrase hold someone's gaze, and this means a similar thing to lock eyes, that 2 people look straight at each other for a period of time.
We've had lock eyes. Look at someone who is looking at you for a period of time.
For example, the 2 fighters locked eyes before the boxing match, neither wanting to be the first to look away.
This is Learning English from the News, our podcast about the news headlines. Today, we're talking about another attempt to shoot US President Donald Trump.
The dinner and shooting took place at the Washington Hilton Hotel during the White House Correspondents' Dinner. This event happens every year and political journalists are invited.
There have been 2 previous unsuccessful attempts to kill President Trump while he was campaigning for election in 2024.
As US investigators look into this 3rd alleged assassination attempt against Trump, security officials are reviewing the president's protection protocols.
Many have questioned whether the security perimeter at the Washington Hilton was strong enough, why attendees were not asked to show their ID at the event, and why the president, vice president, and others in the line of succession were all gathered in one place.
President Trump has said the incident shows his controversial plan to build a $400 million ballroom at the White House is needed.
Our next headline is about this. This headline is from The Guardian, a British newspaper. Trump claims gala shooting gives urgency to White House ballroom plan.
That headline again from The Guardian. Trump claims gala shooting gives urgency to White House ballroom plan.
This headline is about Trump's response to the attempted attack at the hotel.
The headline says Trump believes the incident gives urgency to his plans for a ballroom. What can you tell us about this phrase, gives urgency, Becca?
Well, the adjective urgent means very important. It tells us that something needs immediate attention. So, if we give urgency to something, it means that we make something more important so that it will be considered more quickly.
Yes, we use give urgency in more formal contexts, usually where a sudden event or change in circumstances makes a particular issue more important. For example, an accident in a school playground could give urgency to safety updates that were already being planned or discussed.
We can use give with other abstract nouns as well. For example, we can give thanks when we receive a gift, give consideration to a topic that requires careful thinking, or give support to someone when they need it.
We've had give urgency, make something more important so that it will be considered more quickly.
For example, the growing humanitarian crisis gives urgency to peace negotiations.
This is Learning English from the News from BBC Learning English. We're talking about the attempted assassination of President Trump.
Despite the recent gunfire and security concerns, British royals King Charles III and Queen Camilla have gone ahead with their 4-day state visit to the US.
Yes, on Monday afternoon, the King and Queen were welcomed by the President and the First Lady before attending a garden party with guests from both the UK and the US.
The trip comes at a difficult time. Conflicts in Iran and doubts raised by Trump about UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer have caused tensions between Washington and London.
Let's have our next headline. This is from CNBC, a US news organisation. UK royals head to the US in the wake of war, shooting and rocky relations.
And that headline again from CNBC. UK royals head to the US in the wake of war, shooting and rocky relations.
This headline highlights the rocky relations between the two nations. Rocky in this context means uncertain or difficult, but we're going to focus on the phrase in the wake of.
Yes, in the wake of is an idiom meaning following closely behind an event, often a negative one.
Yes, literally, a wake is the trail left behind a ship. It creates waves which spread out behind it.
If you're in the wake of an event, the consequences of that event are still happening. There might still be metaphorical waves, and things might still be unsettled.
Yes, so in this story, the British royals are visiting straight after a dramatic event and other issues like war. They're visiting in the wake of these events.
We can also say that something is in something's wake, meaning that it is a result of an event, usually a negative one. For example, the tornado left hundreds of damaged homes in its wake.
We've had in the wake of, following closely behind.
For example, in the wake of the scandal, the manager resigned.
That's it for this episode of Learning English from the News. We'll be back next week with another news story.
If you've enjoyed this programme, try the listening room on our website to learn more from news stories and test yourself with exam-style questions.
Bye for now.
Goodbye.